Kaz and KashReactz. Coming here live today, basically to talk about, give a movie review on Haunting.
Connecticut, Ghost of Georgia.
Yeah, great movie, great movie. So what we want to talk about today is what we think about the movie and why we think it's a good movie to watch for you and your family. So if you like horror movies, this may be a good movie to check out.
Yes.
So the movie we were watching on Netflix. So this is one of their movies that are available. So if you have Netflix, definitely consider watching this movie. So the Haunting was basically set in Rome, Georgia.
Pinestone.
Oh, sorry.
Pinestone, Georgia, 1993. That's where the whole thing was set in, because it's based on a true story.
Right. So it was a pretty cool setup. Typically when you look at movies like these, like the Hauntings, you're looking for them to be really, really sinister, which this was as well. But the thing about it, the movie was about a family of four. It was a mom, which is
Lisa,
husband Andy. Whose daughter was Heidi.
Heidi.
Yeah, and the aunt
Joyce.
So the four of them. So it said they had purchased this new home in this rural area. But the thing about it, it was on this land that at one time was used to as like a path or a stop on the Underground Railroad, which is was unique, and it brought a lot of insight and attention to that aspect. But the thing about it was that the daughter, which was her name was Heidi, she was clairvoyant. 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 She could
Yeah,
see.
she could see spirits.
Yeah.
She could see spirits as they were walking on the land. The most notable spirit that she always seen a lot was Mr. Gordy in the movie. J.S. Gordy. That's the one spirit that she always seen.
Yeah, so she would see the spirits. The interesting thing about the mom also had the ability to see spirits as well, and also the aunt. But the mom was, I guess, the type of person who didn't want to see the spirits and didn't want to have that ability. So she was taking medications to prevent her from being able to see, or would soften the symptoms, or kind of allow her to block it all out.
Right.
But as she began to live there, they began experiencing some paranormal activity, which, like you said, they had a ghostly figure, which was a former owner of the property who passed away back in 1978. So she was able to see him, but the dad was like, he became more aware of his daughter's capabilities as things began to happen, and things that he told that his ghostly spirit, what's his name, Mr.
J.S. Gordy.
Yeah, J.S. Gordy would tell the daughter, and so when the daughter would report back to her family, she'd be able to, dad would kind of, the things that dad would see, the daughter would see, would be things that were told to the parents.
Right.
So the dad began to believe that, hey, maybe there's some truth to this whole issue here, to the situation. So tell them a little bit about how when they how things began to go left.
From what I remember from watching the movie, how things began to go left was the priest that came to see them and was talking about how the land was very old and it was part of the Underground Railroad, where the station master was seen as a good man. But there's a twist to that. They thought that the station master was a good man, and they thought that Mr. J.S. Gordy was a bad man, which is the very much opposite. The station master wasn't a good man. Mr. J.S. Gordy was. The station master, basically what he did, he would take some of the slaves that were there take them to a little shelter underground and hide them down there. Because he was supposed to take them up north. But what happened was he ended up putting them down there and never coming back to get them. So everyone that was down there ended up dying, and the station master got killed by the Klan because they found out that he was helping the slaves escape. And then with that, one night, kind of getting towards the end of the movie, when Heidi and Andy, the dad, they had enough. They decided to pack up their stuff. You know, the mom, she was very confused. She didn't know why they had to leave the land, you know, but they, you know, they had to. You know, Heidi was like, you know, we have to go. So.
And who was telling her? This was J.S. Gordon was telling her that they needed to go,
yes.
right? So he was kind of giving the daughter again. It was, you know, being that spirit guide to the daughter, and that, you know, was telling her about things that were happening. So what was happening was that station master was actually coming back to take their souls, essentially.
Yes, take their souls.
It was what was weird about that station master, you know, when I remember the movie, was that he was like some sort of taxidermist.
Taxidermist, yeah.
So he had this weird sadistic mindset. He was making the slaves that he kept. He was actually like stuffing them, like, you know, he would do it
with sawdust.
Yeah, with sawdust, and it was kind of so bizarre. He was had this. It was almost like as if he was some sort of like some like serial killer in a sense. So he had this sadistic mindset, and he had his own idea what he wanted to do with the slaves that he kept, which is really, really weird. So when everything became, you know, to climax, and the parents decided, you know, the dad wanted to leave, the mom was like she didn't want to leave, but where were we going to go? Things kind of began to really ramp up at this point. So this station master spirit began to kind of came back to kind of take everybody out. But what happened was, I guess the mom had this. She began to see the spirits again because they were coming to her. But now they were trying to get her to realize that, hey, we need you to come in and provide this, you know, this hedge of protection over your daughter, because now she can't do it alone.
And also the mother, which she also had the same gift as, you know, Joyce and Lisa. Her mother, because her mother died. This was in the very beginning of the movie. Lisa and Joyce's mother died in the beginning of the movie, when Lisa was at the old apartment before she moved to the new home. Her mom was in spirit form, of course, and Lisa could see her, and she said, "Lisa, let them in, Lisa, let them in." And then again in the but this time it's a different scene. In the new house, Lisa was laying in the tub very early in the morning, and that's when her mom had told her once more, "Lisa, let them in." And then to go back to what you were saying.
Oh yeah, so everything began to climax at this point. They needed to get out of there. They were trying to leave. The mom, which was Lisa, stepped in, because what happened was that station master essentially just took the daughter and they took her down to the underground dwelling, which is his name, which is his safety, or his protected space where he was actually do his deeds down there. Now, so early in the movie, we're reflecting back early in the movie, because the daughter was clairvoyant and was getting these signs and these sorts of was being told by the former owner, Mr. was J.S. Gordy.
J.S. Gordy, yes.
Yeah, and so they were being told about, kind of like led by these spirits to locate where these that underground space. So the daughter, or Heidi, she basically was back there, and she actually was the spirit, well, the station master had taken her down there, and it was like a 25-foot drop from the ground. So this is where things kind of got real weird, because the dad was able to find her, and they were able to actually save her at that time. But what was down there was all these skeletons, or the corpses of these lost slaves who were down there. So they were able to actually uncover these lost corpses, so that they were found.
Even the station master got the sister too, Joyce.
Yeah,
he had got her, and it was really crazy how he did. He ended up his spirit ended up getting into, because to say this as well, right next to the house that Andy, Lisa, and Heidi were living in, right next to it was a little trailer that that Joyce, the sister, was living in. So basically, she was living right next to them. So the station master, one night when Heidi was still in the car before she got taken by the station master, Joyce had seen the station master's spirit outside. And so that's when Joyce was screaming out, Heidi, Heidi, screaming out her name. That's when the station master saw Joyce, and Joyce tried to get back in the house quickly, which she did, but the station master still got in and took over, making Joyce suffer, basically. It was so disturbing to the point where, like, it's like a thread, because also
back to that taxidermy thing. So
back to the taxidermist thing.
Yeah, so this is where the whole the actual station master he sewed her body up and kind of like prevented her from being able to move, which was really weird and scary.
Mm-hmm.
So that happened, and this is all towards the end. Now, at the end, when the mom was able to, the station master took the daughter, which is Heidi, again back to that down the underground kind of like location. Basically, at this point, the mom was able to spiritually connect and find out where her daughter was.
Mm-hmm.
But now she had to go down and save her. At this point, she had to save her, but also she was led to the location by those spirits who owned the land and who were also roaming, who had been kind of like, haunting them the whole entire time. So they were basically telling her where her daughter was. When she was able to get there, she was able to find her daughter, of course, save her, and then, of course, the not giving away too much, but the station master was basically left to the spirits to take care of him. You know what I mean? They had their revenge.
Mm-hmm.
So once all this was done, everything basically was over. All the paranormal activity went away. J.S. Gordy, which was that guiding spirit,
mm-hmm.
he crossed over as well. And then, the family was able to continue to live there with no other paranormal activity. So what's interesting about this, this particular movie was compared to a lot of other, movies like this, or horror movies in general, you don't always see that positive end or like a happy ending where things gonna get back to normal or get back to that, that great space, everything
mm-hmm.
goes back. You most times see things kind of still lingering on, and that paranormal activity that you see in the beginning, it still exists.
Right.
So this was a little different spin on typical horror movies, but it was a great, ending, and it had a great result. But the idea is that, this happened, it was based on a true story.
Mm-hmm.